you either have these legacy platforms that have tacked on like one-off admin features as AI features to their legacy platform,
Yeah.
but that's not very accessible because one, it's a like business-wide platform. You're either on Gong or you're not. A lot of companies are, but a lot of companies aren't, right? Or what I've also noticed and observed about the Win AIs, Sybils, etc., the sort of newer age AI
Stuff.
tools that are focused on some administrative tasks is that they are taking more of a
This is sponsored by the GTM AI Academy and AI Powered GTM, where we bring you insights, interviews, and all the latest knowledge needed to thrive with go-to-market and AI. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Coach K, and I am so excited for today's guest. He literally is just about ready to come out of stealth. I know when this comes out, you'll be coming out of stealth for a month, but you're ready to come out of it. And shout out to the world you're here, and I'm really excited to talk to you. So I have Dustin on the line with ChatAE, and just excited to dive in with you, man. How are you doing?
doing well. Thank you for having me. And yeah, super excited to chat. Love all the topics you're covering, all topics that are near and dear to my heart. So look forward to diving in.
All the random stuff. Yeah, I love talking to people like yourself because you're obviously passionate about it. You've been in the space for a while. You're building the tech. You're a good mix of both the execution piece, but also building the tech. So it's good for the audience to hear. So first off, before we dive in, obviously you're the founder of ChatAE. And before that, I was looking at this real quick. Hang on. This is a good thing about podcasts is I can, what's it called? Edit this out. But you've been in sales for a while. So you're a sales exec, you're a director, you're a head of sales at Airplane. You even did some advising consulting at another past company, but now you're doing your own thing. So you've been on the block, you've experienced the pain of being a salesperson, and now you're in this world of AI. So tell me more about the journey, the stuff I can't see on LinkedIn. Why are you going down this crazy AI path and doing what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been in SaaS sales my whole career, as you just mentioned, for almost a decade now. And
Yeah.
particularly startups between at every stage on the 0 to call it 50, 60 million ARR journey. And I, as part of that, just honestly caught the builder's bug. And I knew I always wanted to build something of my own. I'm also
Yeah.
the type of person that needs to be passionate about what I'm working on, especially if it's something like stepping into founder mode and really signing myself up for a lot of ambiguity and a lot of,
Right.
uncertainty. And so the idea with Chat AE too is building something I wish I had my whole sales career that
Right.
now AI makes possible. And we can get into that obviously in more detail, but super passionate about solving problems for salespeople. At the end of the day, like that is the world I've lived in for the past nearly a decade. And also in particular, excited at just building. Everywhere I've been, everywhere I've worked, despite the fact that the 3 companies I've worked at full time have been very different companies selling to very different types of customers, all had
Yeah.
the ethos of building. And so that's something I've taken away from everywhere I've been. And the idea of being able to build something myself now is just a no-brainer for where I've been in my
Cool.
career.
That's awesome. So you obviously you have the operational, execution, sales rep, sales leader past. Do you have much experience in building tech? You're like hiring people out, or how are you handling the tech side?
Yeah, because I do think a lot of new startups today, because of AI and because of the rise of no code, low code tools, have
Right.
made it possible for more folks like myself and other
Right.
non-engineering background folks, go to market
Hmm.
folks to start their own
Hmm.
companies. However, with what I wanted to build for Chat AE, I knew I would need an engineering
Yeah.
partner in some capacity. That actually was what took the longest time from inception of the idea in my head and knowing what I wanted to build to actually like executing on it was finding
Yeah.
that engineering partner. I think there's a whole interesting conversation around
Oh, I'm
co-founder
sure.
matching and stuff
Right.
that
Yeah.
could be had here, especially from the perspective of someone who is on the go-to-market side looking for a technical co-founder. But I got lucky, very fortuitous. A former colleague of mine from Airplane who is on the engineering team there and who is ex Stripe. Basically, I connected with him and he was also looking to, you know, take the entrepreneurial plunge
It's
and
cool.
also have the founder bug himself. And yeah, I think it's a big benefit when it's someone you actually know and have worked with. But that was for sure something that was weighing on me as I was thinking about making this journey was I knew I needed an engineering partner to build what ultimately was the vision I
Right.
had.
Right. Yeah, I went to your website. We talked about this before we started. Was your yeah, it made me laugh when you go to your website now, which is you're waiting to launch. It says not another AI SDR, which I love. But for those who have no idea what the heck you do, what is it that? Tell me more about the tech. What do you? What's the problem? Let's start there. What's the problem you see your experience, and how are you thinking about using AI to solve it with the tool?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say there's 2 aspects of the problem. One is that today there's a lot of sales folks, a lot of account executives, sales reps that are just not using AI in their daily workflow as much as they
Uh-huh.
could be, and I think there's a couple of
Yeah.
reasons for that. The other aspect of the problem is we are, as sales folks, continued to be asked to do more with less, get more pipeline, run more calls on your calendar, work more deals, all with less resources, especially over the last couple years. And I think a lot of existing AI tools, a lot of AI sales tools overpromise and underdeliver or just flat out focused on the wrong workflows. Like you
Totally.
mentioned on our website right now for pre-launch, we're teasing what ChatAE is by saying, "Hey, we're not another
Yeah.
AI PR." I just think there's a lot of focus with a lot of funded startups or even just existing legacy platforms on workflows that are not a great fit for sales, like trying to
Yes.
automate the BDR role or automate other roles away. I just think that's the wrong approach. And so the approach we're trying to take is really focusing on what AI is actually good at and
Right.
do so in a way that's very accessible to the average AE at any B2B SaaS company. And really, we're orienting around the repetitive, routine, administrative tasks that take up a ton of our time as sellers, but for which
Mhm.
AI is really well suited. So the way
Yeah.
I describe Chat AE as like an elevator pitch, single sentence format is it's really a sales copilot that is built narrowly focused on pre and post call tasks like call prep, research, follow up, determining next steps that take up a
Right.
lot of time and that AI is actually useful and helpful at assisting with.
That's cool. So there, we talked about before, there's a lot of different companies that are doing some sort of automation, which some of them, when there's a bunch of others we talked about. Anyways, there's a bunch that do something similar to that, right?
Yeah.
What do you feel like is your unique edge over some of the tool that might do the same CRM automation or pre or post call updates?
Yeah. What I've observed is there's two, to the extent that there are tools that are focused on these
Yeah.
routine admin tasks.
Stuff.
I've found sort of 2 things about them, and they both speak to an accessibility problem. One is you either have solutions like Gong or Apollo or even Microsoft coming out with one-off features to help with one-off administrative tasks. Like, for instance, in
Right.
Gong, you can create a follow-up email from a call recording, but that's it. You don't really have the ability to, like,
Which, by the way,
customize
you can't customize it, and it's pretty like the email's literally like the summary. It's not. It's anyways. We
Yeah,
could go on about
exactly.
that for a while, but
Yeah,
yeah. So
exactly.
keep going.
So, you either have these legacy platforms that have tacked on, like, one-off admin features as AI features to their legacy platform,
Yeah.
but that's not very accessible because, 1, it's a, like, business-wide platform. You're either on Gong or you're not. A lot of companies are, but a lot of companies aren't, right? Or what I've also noticed and observed about the Win AIs, Sybils, et cetera, the sort of newer age AI
Stuff.
tools that are focused on some administrative tasks is that they are taking more of a, I would describe, forced upon you AI sales platform approach. And whereas the approach we're taking with Chat AE is a very prosumer, narrowly focused, accessible approach, both in the product and how we're pricing and going to market so that the average AE at an average SaaS company can
Whatever
get
company. Yeah.
started, use the product, buy the product without needing to onboard to a broad AI sales platform that is connecting into
Yeah.
5 different systems that IT and RevOps need to sign off on, et cetera. So the accessibility piece, I think, is really key to what we're doing here.
So question for this is my kind of logistical. So as an example, if
Yeah.
someone had a call, does it join calls to do some of the post call follow up, like maybe not, or accesses the transcript through Zoom? Like how does that work exactly for the AE?
Yeah, so we're very narrowly focused. We're
Yeah.
not trying to bite off things that already work, like
Right.
Gong, Chorus, Grain, even just like Zoom recordings already do a good job of recording tools. We don't need to be a meeting recorder. We'll either integrate with those tools or just allow AEs the ability to copy and paste either their notes or the
Mhm.
transcript into ChatAE to get started and kick off various workflows. Again, we want to
Love it.
be very
Cool.
accessible. An AE can sign up for ChatAE right after a call they just had, take that transcript or take the raw notes that they took themselves, pop those right into ChatAE, not have to worry about RevOps authorizing ChatAE as an app in their Salesforce or Gong environment or Zoom environment in the case of I and get started quickly. Yeah, we're not trying to be things that already work, right? There's no reason
Right.
to try to disrupt Gong at meeting recording. Focus on the areas they're ignoring, which is these routine administrative tasks, and do so in an accessible way that the average AE can get signed up, get into the product, and actively start using right away without a lot of heavy lifting.
So, question for you. Now, this is me talking. I'm going to think about lots of things. And I'm
Yeah.
genuinely curious. So, one of my mind goes to a place of saying, okay, if I had a custom GPT, which I've done before and I've built, where it literally could do the same thing, I upload a transcript, it spits out different things. What's the difference between that versus your chatty? And I'm genuinely asking, so I'm curious. I know there's a
Yeah.
difference. Tell me what it is I'm missing. What's the difference?
I think you're getting at what is a big part of our actual competition. Like, I hate to be that guy who is
No,
like,
that's okay.
"Oh, our competition is actually this." Like, I really do
Yeah.
think because of the way we're approaching this with a prosumer accessible, like, way,
Right.
our a lot of our competition is like ChatGPT, like people
Right.
paying for ChatGPT Pro and creating custom GPTs. I'd say there's 2 aspects that are different and that make using ChatAE for these routine administrative tasks better than just using ChatGPT or
Right.
a custom GPT. One is it's just a lot easier. ChatAE is already pre-prompted and pre-coded to
Trained.
act and think like an on-demand sales manager.
Right.
Uh, and so you don't have to worry about any sort of like mega prompts or any sort of
Right.
issues with
Right.
actually like creating
Yeah.
the GPT in the first place. But I think more importantly, there is both a narrowness of focus and just a user experience difference with Chat AE, right? So
Mhm.
on the narrowness of focus, because we are narrowly focused on being like the sales copilot that is going to help with pre and post call tasks, there's a whole number of additional features layered in to help with that. So for instance, something as simple as the way you recap one type of sales call in a given stage in your opportunity is going to be totally different from how you would recap another. The way you would recap a
Right.
discovery call is inherently different from how you'd recap a proposal review call or a POC scoping
Right.
call. And so
Right.
having all of that built in, again, because we are narrowly focused on these pre and post call
These
sales
moments. Yeah.
administrative moments, we are able to have AEs come in and start tailoring where they're at
Yep.
exactly with what stage they're at. And then the other aspect is the ability to customize both the inputs and the outputs. So with a custom GPT, you get an output and you're stuck from there. Like you either prompt it further or you start over. With Chat AE, we have both the ability to live edit like the outputs in what we call like a
Yeah.
doc mode, which is a bit of
Yeah.
a Notion, Google Doc style editor of all of the outputs. We also support templates. So you can have the
Cool.
same concept of a custom GPT built into Chat AE so that if you want to, for instance, create a prep doc for an upcoming call that aligns to your given sales methodology, full control over doing that. If you have an email structure or an email recap flow that works
Whatever.
well
Right.
for you, we
Mhm.
have full template support to do that as well. The ability to customize both the inputs and the outputs, in addition to just Chat AE being designed to act and think like an on-demand sales manager is, I think,
Yeah.
where a lot of the separation from a Chat GPT or custom GPT comes into play.
I'll tell you from being a person who educates salespeople on this on a daily basis, I think it's smart only because to this is why, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but this is my experience of working with tons of
Yeah.
different people. ChatGPT is awesome. Claude's awesome. Gemini's awesome. It definitely takes work around the prompting thinking of how to make sure you get the good outputs out of it. So I know I can, I'm thinking you're going, okay, I can do that. However, it would take me time. number one, that I may or may not have. And number two, most people aren't nerds like me and have prompting all day long because that's all I do. And most people don't want to because like they're trying to sell. Like, they're not making money prompting. So I think it's smart because you're saving them on the time and on the energy and knowledge of being know how to do that stuff. Because I know from working with people, most people are exceptionally frustrated of
Yeah.
not getting the outputs they want out of ChatGPT or even a custom GPT because even when you're doing it or building one with ChatGPT, it does a good job, but it's they're okay. Like I've tried to build, I've tested this where I've customized one on the back end and configure if they're really good. But the ones that I make with it, like chatting with it, they're okay. Like I don't get good
Yeah.
results out of chatting with the ChatGPT custom bot. It's good, but for me, I'm like, I give it a 5 out of 10. The good ones I have are the ones where I've just loaded in the back end and configured in some API calls and some other stuff, which not everyone is able to do. So I can't expect all the salespeople to learn how to prompt engineer. It's just not scalable, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyways, my point is saying that because you've made the tool to where it's easy for someone to get good outputs without having to have all that is awesome. I love
Yeah. The way I think
so
about it is there's 2 pieces to it. There's the efficiency element, which is just,
yeah,
pure time savings, especially for a rep that has calendars that has their calendar stacked with calls. They're running in back-to-back
right,
calls.
back to back. Yeah,
There's just a pure efficiency, pure time savings component to it. The other thing that I think is actually more powerful and where smart use of AI for sales teams makes me get really excited is the
yeah,
ability to turn and help grow like C plus AEs into B plus AEs by
yes,
helping them do these pre and post call activities the right way, right? Or
yeah,
do a better job of them, right? So every salesperson theoretically would want to get full research on the prospect and company they're about to meet with, go through a full call prep to really think through how they want to structure the flow of that call, how they want to
yeah,
position the questions and things like that. And then also write the world's greatest follow-up email and think really strategically about what next steps here make the most sense. I'm not just going to go cookie cutter disco demo every time. But time is an issue. And when your calendar stacked back to back calls, you don't have the
right,
time to do that. The other thing we're really focused on is helping reps who are in that position and have stat calls do good and better call prep,
right,
research, and follow-up and next steps planning in a way that
yeah,
doesn't take an hour per call, right? So that's the part that
yeah.
really gets me excited and passionate about it.
Yeah, I've seen from a rep perspective, any tool that can take weight off, like I'm from the enablement world.
Yep.
And a lot of times I always tell people that a lot of what enablement should be doing is taking stuff off of people's plates versus putting more on their plates. And tools like this are like a prime example of saying this to me is good enablement because you're making it easier for them, but they're getting just as good a product, making the customer experience better. Like all of it's a win. Tell me this, have you had, I don't know if you have, I'm assuming you have some design users, design partners, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? Do you have some case studies you can share around befores and afters, what kind of stuff you're seeing as a result, your case studies?
Yeah, I think, like, there is a raw time savings component to it that is, like, just
Yeah.
very easily identifiable. I've had a number of individual reps and teams now tell me, like, "Oh, after just simply demoing the email recap
Mhm.
flow," for instance, I had
Right.
a rep the other day be like, "Oh my god, this is easily saving me 30 minutes per email." That might be a bit of an exaggeration, like, other reps might be in better off positions, either because they just are faster or they have a better system, but there's
Right.
certainly a raw time savings component to just doing call prep and follow-up and next steps planning a lot faster. The thing that gets me most excited is we have this one team we're working with now officially as customers, 10 reps on their team, a mix, I would say, of very junior reps that very recently were BDRs and
Yeah.
more tenured reps who have been doing sales for not 20 years, but 3, 4, 5 years. The thing that gets me most excited is, in that case, the sales manager said to me, "Hey, you're giving us the ability, especially when it comes to pre-call prep and research, to turn
Yeah.
our junior 6-month or 12-month new AEs into, like, much more tenured AEs in terms of how they approach
Right.
strategically planning and researching an upcoming call. You're
Right.
making it possible for them to do that, and that's the stuff that, like, gets me most excited. If I put on my former head of sales, former director of sales hat on, like, the thing that would
Yeah.
always get me most jazzed up, and also why in another world I feel like I could have been an enablement myself is when
You
I would
probably
see
could.
when I would
Yeah.
see junior reps, like, it would see something click for them, and the output and growth from a rep that I promoted from month 2 to month even 6 was always so heartwarming.
Yep.
So, yeah, the
Yep.
case studies we have where we actually have junior reps that have in teams of junior reps using ChatAE, and the manager or leader says to me like, "Hey, these
Yep.
junior reps are like 2, 3x faster along in their call prep process or the way they're
Yep.
strategically thinking and handling next steps is due to ChatAE." That's the stuff that gets me most excited.
Talking totally randomly, but it's just that's one reason why I love enablement is seeing individuals and teams win. That's why I do enablement is because of that, and that's why I love AI is because I'm able to take some weight off. Like, when people see the light bulb come on, they're like, "Holy this is awesome." Like, that experience is, like, why I love this whole conversation around GTM and AI stuff. Like, it's a hopefully a good drug that I like to partake in as
Yeah.
much as I can because it's just awesome. I love seeing people win and see, like you said, being able to have a junior rep go to a tenured place to be confident on calls faster than usual is awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. What do you see is because I know in the AI world, saying 6 months or a year is like a lifetime in AI
Yeah.
space, but what are you looking forward to implementing, changing, coming on board? What do you think is going to happen to you in the next year or so?
I think a general trend that we've seen and we're gonna see continue is just, like, AI be embedded into even more of our tools, and
Yeah.
AI be less of a feature in and of itself and just the way software works.
It's like electricity, right? We just have
E
electricity and yeah.
exactly, yeah. So the thing as that relates to Chat AE, the thing I'm most excited about is how we can start embedding Chat AE into even more of existing workflows for reps.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, like, being even more places where reps are working. So whether that is,
Yeah.
like, being within their inbox, being in Slack, whatever the case may be, tighter connectivity with the tools that are doing the meeting recording and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
what AI can unlock when you are across different aspects of the stack and different aspects of the workflow and just embedding yourself into more places. Like, I'm really excited about that. More generally with I think I wouldn't be excited about this if I was building an AI BDR, but the
Right.
thing I am excited about is how much better AI is just gonna continue to get, and how much better
Yeah.
the workflows we are focused on at Chat AE with these routine administrative tasks, how much
Mhm.
better AI is going to get at smartly being able to recognize the difference between a discovery call versus a demo call. We've built Chat
Yeah.
AE today to be good at that kind of thing, and it is, but it's taken work. Like, it's taken work to,
Takes time.
build in that nuance
Yeah.
of, "Hey, this is a proposal review call, and you have to prep and follow up and plan next steps from that call differently than how you would a first
Right.
bound
Right.
discovery." So just
Right.
AI getting better and what that means for the routine administrative tasks that we're focused on that as AI gets better, only benefit from that and doesn't
Yeah.
jeopardize any sort of poor job or anything like that's just a general trend I'm super excited about, and obviously a key reason we've oriented the company the way we have.
Awesome. I love it. I'm gonna ask more of a tech nerdy question.
Sure.
Are you using I'm assuming you're plugging into OpenAI or Gemini or something like that as your kind of power model to back up the tech. Is that correct?
So we're plugging into a number of models, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude,
Bunch of them.
Gemini,
Yeah.
etcetera, and then a number of other AI services like Perplexity, Exa, etcetera, to
Cool.
augment some of the additional work. So, for instance, one of the things we've spent the most time on is actually figuring out which models are best for what, and also which aspects of a given task workflow is best suited for one of the LLMs versus
Yeah.
best suited for another AI tool.
Yep.
Because and back to your earlier question about like custom GPTs, like one of the challenges with a custom GPT is you don't always have access to other like best of breed AI tools for
LLMs.
your
Right.
given
You're limited
workflow. You're
on.
just reliant
Yeah.
on the LLM. And so yeah, that's another thing we're heavily
I love
building.
it. Do you feel like the agents, the whole agent conversation, because like literally last week, and I was by the time this comes out, it will be longer, but as when recording, last week, OpenAI released Swarm, which is multi-agent constructs. You can build multi-agents on it.
Yep.
Do you feel like any of that kind of stuff's going to come and play with either your tech, or how you feel about that kind of stuff?
So I will say, and I got a lot of heat from Salesforce people for this, but I wrote a post on LinkedIn calling out like Salesforce's reorientation of their company around agents and how I was not very bullish just based on Salesforce's history to not really deliver a product
You're like the
oriented.
fifth person to tell me that.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I'm not bullish on like the whole agent approach when it comes to Salesforce. I'm way more bullish about what like LLMs can do with agents. So the OpenAIs, the Anthropics of the world,
Right.
I get way more
Right.
bullish and excited about what they're doing with agents because those become
Yeah.
things that, in the case of us, we can build into ChatAE to improve even more. I think, yeah. So agent is one of those catch-all words now that you have to describe define a little bit further,
Yeah.
and whether I think depending on the definition you're using, if it's like the AI BDR agent
Yeah.
definition, I'm very bearish on that. If it's like the OpenAI definition of building in agent-like tools that you can then integrate into your tool, I get way
Yeah.
more excited about that.
Yeah, it's funny because it's AI too, because a lot of people are slapping on AI, be like, "That's technically not AI," or "It's not." It might be machine learning, might be some of the predictive analytics. It's something else,
Yeah.
but they call it AI because that's the word. So I'm seeing the same thing with agents, where people are saying agents solve the place. I'm like, that's technically not an agent, but there's the marketing version and the actual true programming version of what an agent is. But I was just curious what you think, because like in my mind, and this kind of goes to a larger, not an AI thing, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but like in the overall buying process, buyers are different than before. And they've talked about this in other podcasts, but as an example, people will go to the networks, to communities, to other places to do research and get feedback from other people. And it's in Slack communities and other places that you can't attribute and you can't track. It could be a
Yeah.
conversation. I call my buddy up and say, "Hey, have you used Chat AE before?" You just can't track that. So it's a lot of these kind of conversations. And because of that, it means that, and what I view what could be happening when we have the AI that's like a Jarvis from Iron Man, so it's really conversational, very
Yep.
natural, very smart. A lot of the sales process, this is what I think. I don't know if this is right or not. I think a lot of the first part of the sales process is going to be eliminated. And so when a person actually gets to a human, they're way farther into the buying cycle. And that's really when you want to build the trust with the company and have a relationship, that the human comes in, because they're ultimately the ones who have to release the funds. Because what will be crazy is if agents go the way they want to go, it all comes down to who's going to release and trust the money with. So is it $50 is the threshold you'll trust an agent to
Right.
release for you? Like what's that threshold? So I'm curious, what do we think of that kind of stuff? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm of two minds. So that one on the one hand, what you described about buyers being more educated before they engage with a brand is a trend that we've been seeing for the last decade,
While.
and it's hard for me to disassociate that from just the fact that information in general is more accessible because of the internet.
Right.
So there's that aspect to it, and then I think on the other side, there are certain types of sales processes and certain types of products of certain types of ACVs, to your point, where automating some of the beginning of that sales process makes sense. I've never sold like consumer SaaS
Right.
before at $9 a month or whatever, but
Right.
uh, like certainly those things are areas where like buyers are educating themselves. In the case of B2B SaaS, I do think at the lower end of ACVs is where you're gonna start is where you're gonna look at, like, how much of the customer education process can you automate or
Yes.
help them with.
Hmm.
I think it's less about automating, just more about helping them with. But I do think 100K deals, regardless of what you're selling, are sold similarly and have been,
Yeah,
and
I
I
agree.
don't know how much when it comes to selling a developer tool that needs to fit into someone's stack and they have very unique challenges, to what
Right.
extent do buyers become comfortable not talking to a
Right.
solution
Not talking to
consultant
somebody.
about that? I think for the 100K deals and the bigger enterprise deals, the more systematized multi-step enterprise sales processes, I'm less
It's
bullish
complex.
on agents really like
Yeah.
replacing sales folks or even steps of the sales
Yeah.
process there, but that's
I
kind of
thought I thought about that a lot because I talked to a CFO about financial reports because they're accountable for yearly end reports on like for public companies, the CEO and CFO can go to jail if their numbers are off. So it's important. So the question is, I asked him once, I'm like, would you ever trust AI to do this job? He's absolutely not. And I'm not saying that AI won't ever get there, but it's just like there's
yeah,
some things you're like, where's the trust at? And can you trust it to go there? Like you put your stamp of approval on something to buy $300,000 worth of whatever. Can you trust an AI to do that? I don't think so right now. In the future,
yeah,
that's the question. Like, what would have to happen for someone to have that much confidence in AI to say, I totally trust this to spend $500,000? I don't know what that is, but could imagine in the world that someone crazy is going to do that at some point. They'll make the news and they'll make a big ado. But I just don't know how much an everyday life person will be willing to do that.
yeah,
But it could be that we're the boomers of the time. And by the time we're 80, our kids are like, yeah, my AI bought me shoes and whatever.
yeah.
So,
It could be also at the on the flip side, you and I represent 100% the earliest of the early adopter part of the curve. There's still, believe it or not, there's still some companies not operating in the cloud, like as hard to believe as that is. So these things
yeah,
take time to play out. And that's if the context is even right for an AI to be handling buying for a company. Like that might just not
yeah,
be like who knows? We have to see it play out. Like that just might
totally.
not be the right context for that technology. But if even if it is, I think these things do take some time to play out when you have these like platform shifts or large technology shifts. It's like breakthroughs in the technology happen faster, obviously, than breakthroughs in the underlying human behavior.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's funny that because I did a class the other night, like literally 2 days ago for some people about this, the basics of AI. And I guess because I've been deep in this for the last 4 or 5 years that I even thought this last year would change it, but there's still people who are just very on the very, very beginning steps, and that's okay. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. I just keep thinking we're farther. And then Deloitte had a report last week that talked about board members and how much they're talking about AI, how much they want to. Like it's mind blowing how many aren't even talking about it and don't think they need to. I'm just like, what
Yeah.
do you mean you're not talking about this? So, anyways, it's still crazy. And to your point, I get so involved in the early stages that you forget that there's this whole generation that people got to adopt. Just haven't
Yeah.
gotten there yet.
It's
So,
what's exciting about honestly selling SaaS. It's what's exciting
yeah,
about, in my case now, building a SaaS company,
building
building a
something.
technology company is these are big markets. These are big TAMs. There's in my case, like there's a lot of B2B salespeople in the world. There's a lot of them that still haven't really interacted with ChatGPT even. And I'm blown away by that every day. The amount of people I
Hmm.
meet who are AEs and I ask them like, "Oh, how are you using ChatGPT today?" And even that question has in it, built into it, the assumption that they are. So yeah, these are big markets, big problems. That's what's most exciting about, I think, selling SaaS and now
Yeah.
like, building company in it.
And that's why I love what you're doing because I read a stat the other day, and this was a few months ago, that 50% of users for ChatGPT cancel after 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
And I asked myself a lot, like, why is that? And now educating people, I know why that is because they don't know how to get the responses they want. So you have to go to a tech like yours that can help them guide them on easily to get the responses and quality of information they get. Because otherwise, if you don't prompt properly, you're not getting it. So I think what you're doing is awesome and nothing but supportive of it, which is pretty cool. So hopefully
Yeah,
by the time we have this come out in a month ago or a month or so, I'll have a demo up in the library so I can attach it to this and be able to show off your stuff, which would be fun.
for
But
sure.
before I let you go, your website is chatae.ai. Is that correct?
Correct.
Cool. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So best way to get in touch is you can email me, Dustin, Dustin at chatae.ai. I'm also
Cool.
pretty active on LinkedIn,
Nice.
so you can connect with me, follow me there. If folks are interested,
Yeah.
focusing on pumping out helpful content that I think is hopefully helpful for folks thinking about how to use AI in sales and also just general lessons and things I've learned through my sales career so far. But I'd say those are the two best ways.
Cool. And if for everyone listening, I'll make sure I have your website, your LinkedIn link. I'll have a bunch of stuff for people. And by then you'll be launched. So I'm assuming by the time this comes out, if there's someone in sales listening to this, they could go to your website, sign up. Do you have a free freemium tier and then a paid tier? Tell me about the structure. What do you have?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Again, our approach is really oriented around accessibility. Yeah, you can come to the Chat AE website, create an account, sign up, get in the product right away. We have a time-based free trial and then basically low cost self-serve paid tier at $19 a month that doesn't cap
Cool.
out on usage or doesn't have built-in like number of
Stuff.
chats with ChatAE built into it.
Yeah,
So like unlimited usage from there. Yeah, very
cool.
accessible.
Once it gets live, I'm gonna get in and play with it because this kind of stuff. I don't. I guess I
Awesome.
do sell sometimes, but I'm not a salesperson. But I'll use it just to test and see because I love this kind of stuff. It's fun to play with. Dustin, nothing but a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, and I'll make sure I have all the links for people who want to reach out to you. So thank you.
Love it. Thank you so much. It was great. Love the content and love the discussion today.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the GTM AI podcast. Please follow, subscribe, like, comment, and come back for more.